We're seeing more and more men at earlier and earlier ages with low testosterone. And it's pretty alarming. In particular, I see this in young male athletes. They're training more hours than ever before, and that definitely affects how much testosterone they're going to be able to make. Your body acts as a system of systems. If you're struggling with this, take a look. The more stress you put your body under, the more you disrupt that HPA axis, hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. That's what's sending the signal, right? You get a signal from your pituitary, luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone goes to the Leydig cells, says make testosterone. Then you couple that with cortisol. When you have elevated cortisol over time and more stress, remember, we got a primitive nervous system in a modern world, a lot of demands, whether it's school, it's activities, it's social, like whatever those stressors are, cortisol goes up, you inhibit gonadotropin releasing hormone, testosterone's coming down. So you combine those two, the HPA axis, right, that's going on, along with the fact that not getting enough sleep is a big factor in kind of restoration of your circadian timing of all your hormones. You're supposed to make a lot of testosterone in the morning. You're supposed to make another pulse of it in the afternoon. And of course, if our cortisol's up in the morning, guess what? We're going to be signaling the inhibition of making testosterone in the morning. And so we get into this vicious cycle. Now, there's other things that lead to that. If their DHEA pool is low, which is a building block for both testosterone or sex hormones and cortisol, if you're sucking up your DHEA to make cortisol, you don't have any left to build testosterone. A little bit trickier in men. Sometimes when men take DHEA, they end up making more estrogens or dihydrotestosterone. They don't necessarily make more testosterone. So that's one factor. You think about busyness of life, stress. If they had head traumas, anything like concussions, that can affect it. And then there's nutrient status. Are you eating foods that are going to help you to build hormones, right? You need things like zinc. You need fatty acids. There's, components to your diet that are going to help you to build your hormones. So diet plays an important role. A lot of people, since my age, right? A lot of antibiotics growing up. Maybe your food selections are wrong, your gut is off, and there's the whole gelding theory on, changes in hormone production. So what happens is you're producing more lipopolysaccharide, and for men, that lipopolysaccharide can attach to their Leydig cells and say, stop making testosterone. Are you getting exposed to endocrine disruptors? We know that there are estrogen-related endocrine disruptors. So the big one, of course, was, drinking out of plastic bottles and BPA, right? That's the most well-known one. But there's other pesticides. You got to realize 90% of the pesticides that are made are sprayed on our foods. And if you're not washing your food and you're not buying organic, well, potentially, or you live in an area where they spray a lot of pesticides, or maybe you're in a rural community, a lot of pesticides, who knows? Those endocrine disruptors could be disrupting your ability to make hormones. Now, the other things that are happening in young males is that sometimes they're starting to make more because of those estrogen endocrine disruptors. They get more estrogen signaling. And then when you also think about, why are we inhibiting testosterone and we're seeing more prolactin elevations in young men? And I see this a lot in younger athletes, actually. It's if you're pushing yourself hard physically and you're creating a lot of cortisol and you've created that change in your cortisol curve, it turns out that when your cortisol goes high, one of the mechanisms that correlate to that is that you'll start to make more prolactin, which will inhibit your testosterone production a bit. If you had a high prolactin, the first thing the doc would do is go, wow, we got to screen you, see if there's a pituitary adenoma. Majority of the time, it's more relative to the fact of because you have unbridled stress response, you're not doing anything to manage. first thing is, it's not how hard you train, it's how well you recover. So if you're not managing the recovery from exercise with getting adequate food in, getting your glycogen stores back up, making sure you're getting adequate rest, maybe you're, getting in a sauna, doing just things that help you to recover, right? If you're not doing those things and you're coupling that with staying up late at night, screening through your phone while you're in bed, right? Having a TV in your bedroom that's on, right? All those kind of blue light things and things that keep our mind stimulated. So we're not getting a good night's rest. It's pretty unlikely that you're going to build adequate testosterone during the course of your day. Now, one of the big things that happen with some in different pockets and populations and really different age categories was incredibly popular probably 10 years ago, and it's still pretty popular, is the use of SARMs. So SARMs, Selective Androgen Receptor Modifiers, SARMs. People could buy them in health food stores. So young male reads about SARMs, goes, whoa, this is going to put muscle on me and lean me out. I'm in. I want that. Problem is, if you were to use SARMs, there's a lot of research on them, but they're not FDA approved for anything or not deemed as something that's, kind of safe and legal, but plenty of them on the market, a lot of ways to get them. Well, if you're on those for an extended period of time, it suppresses your testosterone. And I can't tell you how many young men needed to be able to get on, enclomiphene or HCG, things that would re-stimulate your brain to make luteinizing hormone so that the luteinizing hormone can tell your Leydig cells to make testosterone. There's ways that it occurs from environmental burden. There's ways that occur from it metabolically from your own body, meaning like your gut. You could be deficient in nutrients like zinc, for example. When your zinc status is low, there's this process called aromatase. So if you're a man and you are making testosterone and you're low in zinc, you'll aromatize your testosterone to dihydrotestosterone and into estrogens, and you won't hold on to your testosterone as much. Now, just as important as getting that testosterone level up in a male, especially a young male, it's about free testosterone. And it turns out that stress hormones and insulin resistance drive up your sex hormone binding globulin. And some thought that even environmental burden can do that. So there's a lot of factors involved as to why we're seeing more and more of these issues as it relates to young males. And I'd say the other thing is in the inactive male, not getting enough movement, exercise, resistance training, moving, pretty important in order to stimulate testosterone production. So a lot of factors involved. That's why the Metabolic Code, why I developed it, it's so important, is to take a look at all the systems of the body. Your body acts as a system of systems. One system affects the other. So gut, immune, brain could be affecting triad 5, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. Keep that in mind that if you're struggling with this, take a look. Which system has got the biggest metabolic roadblocks and then overcome those? See what kind of success you get.